And joining us for that is Sean Henry, the Chief Security Officer at CrowdStrike and a former Executive Assistant FBI Director. Sean, again, it's nice to see you for the first time in a while, if remotely. Help us understand these hackers, this group called Nobelium, what they did and how significant what they did was.
Well, the significance, Peter, is pretty substantial. The fact that they were able to get access, what appears to be unfettered access to many organizations around the United States and across the globe. So that's important. But I think more important is the fact that they were able to use a compromise at a U.S. government agency and then to launch emails from that agency or presumably from that agency to entice people to click on these malicious links or emails and download malware into their environment. The fact that that happened in a government agency should be disturbing. The government, through his executive order in this White House, has recently put forth new recommendations for government agencies to use what many companies have been using for the last 4 or 5 years. And we're looking at the government now taking that lead to implement new security measures. But it's a little too late at this point for the companies that have been victimized.
Sean, let me read in part what we heard from USAID. They wrote a statement that said the following: the forensic investigation into the security incident is ongoing, adding that they're working with federal authorities, including DHS. But Microsoft is making a larger point here. They say, quote, this is yet another example of how cyber attacks have become the tool of choice for a growing number of nation states to accomplish a wide variety of political objectives. Nation state cyber attacks are not slowing. We need clear rules governing nation state conduct in cyberspace and clear expectations of the consequences for violation of those rules. Just want to get your take on that. The president had an executive order, a series of them recently, trying to place stricter standards on software sold to the government. But what more do we need to be doing and should we be doing to better protect our networks?
Well, I'd love to see Microsoft say that in front of Congress. Be careful what you ask for, because what we're seeing is their software being exploited regularly by adversaries. So if that was remediated and companies that were producing and distributing that software, if they were held accountable, I think we'd see a lot more fidelity in the environment. The reality here is government cannot protect the private sector. It can't happen. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the capability, the way the infrastructure is set up. Companies have to protect themselves. I think if we see the government, and I think the executive order is a great step forward if it's actually executed upon successfully. Some of the requirements in that order call for government agencies to implement threat hunting and endpoint response, looking at actors in advance of them exploiting and breaching the networks. And those are the types of capabilities that the private sector has been using. If the government uses it, they will become more resilient. It's an important message to send. It's an important example to send. The last piece I'll mention here, Peter, which is critically important, when we talk about the president talking to Putin coming up forward, the government, the U.S. government, needs to put deterrence measures in place. If other foreign governments think they have the capability and the free-ranging access to exploit U.S. networks, they will continue to do that because their return on investment is substantial, and they've got to be deterred. If they're not deterred, these attacks continue indefinitely.